couple things I want to mention also. Whenever you do a plan like this, you always have to try to figure how realistic is this. You try to craft a plan that can be done over time, that we think your community can do. And we feel really good about sort of the people we've been working with. I mean, we're so fortunate to have David, for example. What a great addition to actually have a city planner on board, and that's critical to your implementation. You've got a mayor who's extremely engaged. I mean, a lot of times we work on these kind of projects and don't even meet the mayor. And your mayor's been here for all of our meetings, and clearly has a strong commitment, and other elected officials. And so, we think that this stuff can really happen. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, but if we can identify that kind of quick victory project to come out of the gates, we think you can start to build some momentum. So, with that, we'll answer questions. We lost Keith. Do we put everybody to sleep? Was it that bad?
So I know we hit you with a lot of information. Questions, comments, you like it? Is there stuff you want us to change? Yes, sir.
How do you identify the project to kick it off? In other words, what you just mentioned. I mean, do you have in your mind, or does your group have any particular ideas of the particular items that you mentioned?
Yeah, we've been so focused on putting together what we just presented that we have, we need to kind of step back and reflect, but a lot of what we really wanted to do is hear from you. Hear what you think is important. What would you like to see really? I will tell you this, it needs to be something that has high visibility, right? Not just some sort of little program that, is part of the document. It needs to be visible, it needs to be high odds of success. You don't want to come out of the gates stumbling, right? So those are kind of the general criteria. Something that you can actually achieve, though, in a relatively short period of time. Yes, sir.
Based on that, obviously, if we're looking for more people to be downtown shopping and so forth, one of the critical issues that has been mentioned is the safety of pedestrians and changing the pedestrian access to the downtown and so forth. I personally think that the median on Main Street would be a good idea, and the crosswalks and the bulbs and everything, because I think if you get that in place, that's something visually that you can see quickly.
And I tell you another idea. Sometimes when we do the quick victory project, it's something that's already just in the works, just started. And another great example of that here would be the two buildings behind the chamber. I mean, seeing those saved and restored, that's another quick victory project potentially. So, yes, sir.
How prone to flooding are the buildings directly north of the street?
Directly north of the street.
Yeah, where the old theater is.
Right.
They're all in the hundred. They were removed though about 10 years ago.
Well, then
And re-entered in the last 3 years.
when the insurance company lost a bunch of money and they moved the map, so they get some more money.
When was the last time those?
Are you cynical?
About 3 years ago, it entered back in.
I mean, when they,
The last flood in those buildings, I have pictures of the Martin Harbor building back in the 40s.
The last flood we had in Kentucky was in 1979, when the water actually got into the streets. And since that time, since the water is controlled a lot differently now,
right.
with the dams up and down the river, we've had a lot of conversation with the power company and the river about what to expect. We don't know, but if you build in a way that if the water comes, when it recedes, then you wash it out and you keep going.
Yeah.
So that's going to be the approach, I think. But I think Dennis is right on target with what he said, as our city attorney echoed that the streetscape, street design, the traffic flow is probably the first thing. The first thing you got to do is get the infrastructure in the ground. To take care of those things, the utilities to take care of that. But then we'll start beautifying on top of the ground with the streetscape, the sidewalks, the lighting, those things that makes it conducive then for people wanting to come and be a part
reason I asked about the flooding is because, directly behind the building where the theater is, the parking there, it kind of goes, it dips down, and that could be converted to a multi-level parking garage. That space in there.
It's a little tight.
A little bit tight. Yeah. Other questions, comments? Yes, ma'am.
I'm married to an attorney that has the office space on the corner of Hill and Orline, and I really like the idea that it wouldn't be very much money to put those trailheads along the, there's always people walking on those things, and that doesn't seem like that would be prohibitively expensive, like changing sidewalks and stuff sounds.
Right. No, I think you're absolutely right. To build those kind of kiosks, you're talking about a small structure. It's got some informational stuff that's put on it, maps. It wouldn't have to be real expensive. And the location you mentioned, of course, you got a lot of parking in that area too, so that makes for a good trailhead location. That could be a quick victory. Yes, ma'am.
My question is, if you do the streets where you're talking with breaking up all of the edges, what are you going to do about the semis? Because we've got semis, we're up on the corner, and literally every time we either have a semi coming down Ready Street trying to turn onto Hill Street, they can't do it. We have a semi literally take out the whole corner, hitting the electric post, trying to turn right, coming up from Hill Street. So, I mean, there's a lot of semis. I don't know what they're doing, obviously.
Well, the first thing, and I'm going to turn it over to my traffic guy, but in general, what we're achieving with the plan at one level is traffic calming. I mean, a lot of these intersections are getting tightened up, and that just naturally slows down traffic. But Mickey, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I will. We, first of all, we're going to limit the trucks as much as we can. You can't, I understand you're going to have local deliveries.
These are semis.
But a lot of it can be done they'll change the method of delivery a lot of times because of the constraints. And that's one of the things that I've had. Now, they'll have to change the method of delivery in some cases. In some cases, if they encroach on the curb a little bit occasionally, it's not going to hurt anything. You just don't want constant traffic doing it.
Yes,
ma'am. I think some of the problem with the semis coming through town will go away when the construction stops on the casino, because I have spoken to some of the drivers in town. They don't know where they're going. They're trying to either get into the casino or they're trying to get back onto 231, and the signage goes back to signage again. They can't figure out how to get back onto 231 without going through town. So I think that will probably correct itself shortly, and you know, with signage we can add to that as well.
Okay, great.
I have a concern about, we have sharp edges to our district.
Stand up where we can hear what you're saying.
We have sharp edges to our district, but we have to go through an enormous amount of undeveloped areas to get to it. And so I'm thinking that we're going to have to include, and we should include all these people outside the area with our plan so that they can see our vision as well as theirs.
Yeah.
Everything just seems so sharp on the edges. So,
Yeah.
you know, our development just stops. So somebody...
You mean based on like what you're seeing on
Well,
maps,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean, you have to have some limits, and when we were hired, the study area boundaries had already been determined by the city, and that was part of the grant and so forth. But just because there are boundaries, we obviously don't have blinders to what the context is. So, I mean, we spent time exploring the perimeter and kind of understanding the overall context. But, you know, there's only so much you can do, especially within a 3-day charrette.
Sure.
That's why we didn't expand much.
Well, my question then, I guess, is you guys have experience with working with the outside of their perimeters, and, you know, that needs to be addressed at some point.
And the other thing to bear in mind is that we're trying to give you as much information as we think you're willing to sit through. And, you know, we're going to be producing a big, thick, detailed plan document. So that'll, you know, that'll, even when we're back, for example, for the presentation of the more